Hello, and on the gaming table today, we're taking another look at the first Battle of Bull Run, or First Manassas. So I did this one in Volley and Bayonet a little while ago, and I thought today I'd give it another go, and this time I tried to make the map a little bit more accurate, especially with regards to the roads. Roads are really important in Volley and Bayonet, and especially in this battle, where the troops are poorly trained, so moving on roads gives them an advantage where they have less maneuverability in regular field maneuvers. So the roads provide a big benefit to troops in road column. So here you can see the battlefield laid out, ready to go, with the two defending Confederate brigades here at the beginning. And again, the hills are not entirely accurate, but the road network is a lot better compared to what I had the first time. And so here's the first Union turn going on, with some troops appearing at the bottom of the table here, which is Sudley Springs. And there's also a little bit of action starting to go on around the stone bridge in the middle left of the picture here. So here the Union troops moving up mostly in road column, only half move to get on the table. My table is a little smaller than the battle map in the scenario, so I just let the Union troops have a half move for their first turn here. In their second turn here, the Union troops in the lead, the brigades in the lead, moved out of road column into regular field formation, and they did that just behind the creek here, which is all the movement that they were allowed. But it gets them in a position where they can start making actions towards the Confederate positions in good fighting order. At the other end of the table, Bartow and B's brigades have just moved on. You can see them just in the distance there, so they'll be part of the action soon too. Also a little bit of shooting around the stone bridge on the left there, and there were some casualties on both sides. Then in the next turn, the Union lead division there moved up into kind of a line against Bartow and B's brigades there, just on the other side of the creek. And the last Union division moved up and took the other road, which is leading kind of in a more circuitous route around towards Newmarket. And again, there was more shooting on both sides here around the stone bridge, and with the Union division fighting against Bartow and B in the centre there were some casualties being taken again on each side, and I was marking those off camera on a little roster, which we'll see right at the end of the battle. Very limited moves from the Confederates in this turn. Jackson is moving up right at the back left of the table there. You can just see him behind the hill. And Bartow moved his brigade up beside B's, and there was some shooting going on here. Part of the problem here is the Confederates have a lack of command. There are no commanders on the table, and so it's a dice roll to see whether the units are in command. And in most cases here, the Confederates weren't, so they weren't able to be very proactive. The Union didn't have those kind of problems though, so the 1st Division sent some troops into Bartow and B, and the other division on the flank here was starting to take the road route around the side to try and go the unopposed way to Newmarket. At the stone bridge, the Union brigade there had been taking shooting casualties and decided to pull back in disorder rather than keep getting hammered like that. But in the centre here, B's brigade got disordered as a result of a morale failure, and then in the ensuing melee there, it got completely eliminated in the first round. So that's a big win for the Union. They've removed half of the blocking force there. In the Confederate turn, again, limited options for the Confederates with lack of command. Johnson and Beauregard are just starting to come onto the table now. But Jackson was in command because he was in column, and he decided to move all the way through Newmarket and try and block the advancing Union troops that are coming down that side road on the right. The Union troops in the 12 o'clock turn here are pushing hard. This is 4 hours into the battle. They charge into Bartow in the centre of the table. They basically surround Evans at the stone bridge, and they try to move up and take some shots at Jackson as well. So lots of action here in the Union turn. For Bartow, he gets beaten up in the melee and he has to withdraw, and Evans' brigade is actually completely eliminated by fire from artillery and one of the brigades moving up behind it there. So not so good overall for the Confederates. They're another brigade down. In their turn, the Confederates finally have a bit of a success as Jackson charges in to the brigade in front of him, and Bartow is also fortunately in command this turn and manages to maneuver into a position where he can take some shots at the Union troops that are actually fighting Jackson from the flank. And so that leads to a bit of a collapse over on the Union side there, with 2 brigades falling back in disorder, breaking up that advance quite well. Despite that success, the centre of the table is open for the Union, and if they can get their act into gear, they can march unopposed towards Newmarket. The Union do their best, and this is where the poorly trained nature of the troops hampers them a little bit. They don't get as much movement as they would normally do in a volley and bayonet game, and so they move forward as best they can, but there's still some distance from Newmarket, and the Confederates will have a chance to turn around and try and stop them. However, there's a lot of Union on the table and not many Confederates at the moment. So in their turn, Bartow and Jackson move back and make a line in front of Newmarket, and also Stuart's cavalry has appeared on the table at the back there, although they're a very small force and they can't really do much against the large Union brigades. In their turn, the Union does their best, charging into Bartow's brigade with two of their own and moving up into shooting position against Jackson, not able to charge him because they couldn't see him through the woods there. On the extreme left, the Union are trying to take pot shots at Cox Brigade, which is over there. However, the Union division over there has actually reached exhaustion, so they can't charge into melee. Despite one of their brigades being driven off by small arms fire as they tried to charge in, the Union has success against Bartow. They managed to drive him back, and with the extra fire from the cannons that are just on Bartow's right, the left in the screen here, it actually eliminates the brigade. It took me a while to work out how many hits they'd taken. In the Confederate turn, they finally get some significant reinforcements with Kirby Smith and Early and another brigade I can't remember the name of, and Jackson goes stationary to try and become a stone wall upon which the Union will break themselves. Let's see how that works out. And so the Union, in response to Jackson's taunts, charge in with everything they've got, basically sending a whole division against him. On the left, the Union are not able to go in and engage. The best they can do is just sit there and shoot because they're a little bit exhausted, and also their Confederates are uphill there, so a little bit harder for them to take out. So they're going to try and shoot them off the hill. For the big fight with Jackson and everything that's assaulting him, he does do his best and becomes that stone wall upon which the Union breaks themselves. One of the enemy brigades is driven off before the melee really gets started, and the other two get driven off in disorder as a result of losing the combat. That one came down to even casualties and then a morale roll-off on both sides, which Jackson just succeeded in winning. So that blunts the Union offensive over here, although he's still badly outnumbered and he's also taken quite a bit of damage. On the other flank, the more damage is being done to both sides, and things are just continuing to be a shooting match. After that, Jackson pulls back in the Confederate turn as more reinforcements arrive at Newmarket, and on the left, the Confederates form a line on top of the hill. So it looks like we're going to have two defensive positions here, one on the hill on the left, where there's going to be a lot of shooting going on, and one on the right near Newmarket, where we've got all new reinforcements come on for the Confederates. At this point in the battle, two of the Union divisions were exhausted, as was one of the Confederate forces, and that was because of all of the shooting. There was quite a lot of damage being done with shooting here. So for both sides, they couldn't really engage in melee very much here. It was more just lining up and trading shots across the creeks. And so now in the 4 o'clock turn for the Confederates, we've been going 8 hours of gameplay now. The two lines have been formed, and there's a lot of shooting going on, a few casualties on either side, and the armies are basically wearing each other down. So things seem to be a bit of a stalemate here at the moment. One of the sides will eventually break a little bit, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be a great skedaddle back towards Washington by the Union forces. They've moved further ahead than historical, and the Confederates have taken quite a bit of damage as well. So I think this one's basically playing out to be a relative draw. That said, overall, McDowell's plan here to completely flank the Confederate army has failed. There hasn't been a major victory by the Union, and there's been a lot of casualties on both sides, so it's obvious that this war is going to continue for a long time. Anyway, that was interesting. I left it there for today. It was good to have another go at the scenario and play it through, and I was getting better at using the rules. This game went much faster than my first attempt. So yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun just playing it against myself, and yeah, learned a little bit along the way. So anyway, I hope you found that a little bit interesting. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.